Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always, told out of Voice of Radio, and as you listen to this, I'm going to be in Japan because I am delighted to announce, although not for the first time, there we go, that I am casting the World Championships in Yokohama, and when I go away to an event, and I need to make some videos in advance, I like to do a video where I look at 3 cards that, as far as I'm concerned, are never coming back, that are so good we're not getting them back, and I want to start off today with a fan favourite just of mine. It's Lucian's Assignment. Because you see, for me, Lucian's Assignment it's one of those cards that I loved, and I played a huge amount, and no one else that I know seemed to ever use this card. I love it. Now, what this card, is it allows you to move as many energy as you like from one of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. Now, the way I used it back in the day was with my Donphan Prime deck. And I'm using the scan from Celebrations here just to remind you that my actual favourite Pokemon card ever actually got a reprint in Celebrations. And then a whole new generation of people got to see how cool Donphan Prime is. That makes me very, very happy indeed. But Donphan was generally a single energy attacker, right? Single energy, 60 damage, 10 to each of your bench Pokemon. That was what made Donphan tick. But it also had a free energy attack that did 90 damage. Now, you didn't get to use this attack very often. The whole point of Donphan was single energy, expert bout, go. Expert bout meant you gave up an extra prize, but it also meant you did 80 damage. And at the time, we still had broken time space legal in the format, so you could evolve up immediately, like the second you played the card. So you could literally just, like, on your first turn be like, Fampi, broken time space, Donphan, expert bout, energy, depending on whether you went first or second and what the rules were at the time, etc. The point is, that was really good. It was hard to manually attach free energy to a Donphan. So I used Regirock. This was a Regirock from Legends Awaken. Again, another card that I hold in very high esteem. I love this, although this did see play in other decks. And what the Regirock did was it allowed you to discard 2 cards from your hand and then attach a fighting energy from your discard pile to Regirock. Now, Regirock's attack was kind of garbage. Free energy, 70 if you could flip ahead. That wasn't the point. You didn't want to attack with Regirock. What you would essentially do is use Regirock throughout the game, and then at one point during the game, you would use Lucian's Assignment to move the energy from Regirock to Donphan and get one big surprise Donphan. And this is a very long explanation of why I loved Lucian's Assignment. Why do I think Lucian's Assignment is not coming back? Because of Poppy. In Obsidian Flames, they have just given us Poppy. And the thing is that, well, Poppy is this, but worse. It does have the excellent artwork featuring her chilling on a Copperaja, which I love. But Poppy is this, but worse. Poppy specifically lets you move 2 energy from one of your Pokemon to another. And here's the deal, and this is a bit of a theme we see when we do this series, which is legitimately one of my favourite series I do on this channel. Why would they print Poppy, which specifically limited it to 2, if they were going to let you have this back later? There's no point printing a massively nerfed version of this card if they're going to give us a better version down the line. It's just not happening. And, you know, we can see other cards. Another card that got reprinted in Celebrations in the Classic Collection, one of the greatest cards ever printed, and I mean that sincerely, Mewtwo EX. Because X ball did 20 damage for each energy attached to this Pokemon and the defending Pokemon, and if you weren't around when Next Destinies dropped, I assure you this card was full-on broken. Pretty much for a while, the only counter to Mewtwo was Mewtwo. I got 33rd in a giant tournament in Europe. In fact, the biggest tournament in Europe, pretty much because I had free Mewtwo and most of my opponents didn't. Oh, and my deck was good and I played really well. And that's the kind of thing where Lucian's Assignment would come in. Now, I'm not saying it's the same, but how about Executor? This is a card I've kind of been obsessed with since it came around in Pokemon Go. What you do is, for a minimum 3 energy, it does 30 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each grass energy attached to this Pokemon. And what you could do potentially is build this up with, say, Fortress, which KOs itself but accelerates a whole bunch of energy. That is an option. And what Lucian's Assignment would allow you to do is have one of these. Your opponent's just about to KO it. Boom, move the energy off to a different one. And off we go again. The fact that Poppy has been printed kind of tells us that Lucian's Assignment is too good and not printed again. And I don't think this is the kind of card where many of you expected it to come up on this list. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sure anyone but me even remembers this used to be a card. But I've mentioned in my videos lately how Poppy is just a massively nerfed version of Lucian's Assignment. And hopefully I've explained why Lucian's Assignment can be such a good card. And for that reason, I don't think Lucian's Assignment is coming back anytime soon. Now, one that I think people are going to be a little bit more familiar with, and one that I think is going to not surprise many people, is Reset Stamp. And look, I am cheating a little bit with this one. I'm cheating a little bit with it because it's actually banned and expanded. And if it's banned and expanded, you know it's not going to be coming back. The reason I'm cheating a little bit is this is the card people keep asking for. Of the cards that I haven't done on this series, Reset Stamp, I'm pretty sure, is the one I get most often. So yes, for those of you wondering, it is banned and expanded. I'll be fully upfront about that before we start. But every time I make one of these videos, I get a bunch of comments and messages going, "Wassy, wassy, wassy," when you're doing Reset Stamp. And because of that, I think we can go and have a look, just as a one-off, just today, we can talk about Reset Stamp. Now, Reset Stamp was a ridiculous card. It is an item card whereby just your opponent shuffles a hand into their deck and draws a card for each of their remaining prizes. Now, this has a lot of similarities to, for instance, Iono. Because Iono makes both players put their hand at the bottom of their deck and then draw a number of cards equal to their remaining prizes. It puts your hand down lower depending on how well you're doing in the game. The problem with Reset Stamp is it is an item card. And that means you can dig for it. I can play a Professor's Research hoping to hit this and then play it. I can't play a Professor's Research hoping to hit an Iono and then play Iono. That's playing 2 supporters in a turn, ladies and gentlemen. That's cheating. But I absolutely can play a Professor's Research, dig for a Reset Stamp, and then when I hit Reset Stamp, go and play it and really hurt my opponent. But also, and there's so many reasons Reset Stamp is ridiculous. So one reason is it's an item card, all right? Another reason is it's one-sided. If we're down to 1 prize remaining each, I can play Iono, and I am hurting both of us. Yeah, I'm putting my opponent down to a 1-card hand, but I'm also putting myself down to a 1-card hand. And sure, what I might do instead is mitigate this with something like a Bibarel, but if I've gone to the effort of putting Bibarel in my deck, evolving it up, etc., I have at least prepared for this. An Iono when both players are down to 1 is incredibly risky, and it can kind of hurt both of us. Unless one of us is prepared for it. But a Reset Stamp when we're both down to 1 prize really hurts my opponent and I get off scot-free, and that's not particularly fair. But we've also got ways of giving up prizes, and these cards like Reset Stamp always end up being an issue when we've got ways of giving up prizes. And it's a card I mentioned a moment ago, Fortress. This is, if you're looking for a card that gives up prizes, oh, ladies and gentlemen, Fortress is it. Search for 5 basic grass energy, attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like, shuffle your deck, but if you did that, this Pokemon is knocked out. And Reset Stamp with Fortress will be absolutely ridiculous. Like Iono with Fortress is annoying, but at least you've got to evolve up into your EX, do all of this, and not use your supporter because you need to Iono after using Fortress. The problem with Reset Stamp would be that you would be able to do all of this using your supporter and then just play an item card. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that is the difference. And I do think Fortress specifically, and there's a reason even with all of the requests, I didn't do Reset Stamp until now. Fortress really does make this such a relevant discussion. So like I've said, I'm not going to go through banned cards very often in this series, but because so many people specifically asked for Reset Stamp, and because Fortress coming out in Paldea Evolved, which I think was since I did the last episode of this series, really does make this way more relevant than normal. So just for today, just for this episode, I made a little bit of an exception. Having said that, it's my series where I have fun talking about old cards that are so good they're not coming back. If I want to do more banned cards in the future, I might. But I'm going to leave it over to you guys for the last one. The lad that knows stuff 9901 has made a suggestion. It is Devolution Spray. And I am not as convinced as them with this one. But it was a suggestion I have not seen anybody else make. For the record, when I do these videos, I always ask, and I'm going to ask again right now, if there's any cards you think are not coming back, please, 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 please let me know in the comment section. But it's such a unique thing that did generate a bit of discussion, and no one else has ever raised to me that I went, you know what? Yeah, let's talk about Devolution Spray. So, Devolution Spray is actually one that we've had like a billion times. It initially came around in the base set. It got reprinted a bunch of times, including pretty much as a straight reprint in Evolutions, which was the last time we had Devolution Spray. But then we had Devolution Spray Z. Now, Devolution Spray Z is a really interesting case study because it's actually better. Devolution Spray always let you take the highest stage evolution card of one of your Pokemon and put it into your hand. What Devolution Spray Z did was let you take any number of evolution cards, not just the top, any number, and put them back into your hand, which was interesting because they actually made the card better. I feel really confident that's not going to happen again. So let's take a lovely old example. Let's take Golbat and Crobat, because they kind of show quite how good this card can be. So Golbat, when you evolved into it, you got to drop 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. And then you would evolve into Crobat, and when you evolved into Crobat, you would be allowed to drop 3 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. And what this basically did was allow you to get a lot of extra damage out and on the field nice and easily. But the thing with something like Devolution Spray Z that was so gosh darned good is the fact that you would be able to essentially do it all. So your goal would be to basically have a Zubat and a Golbat on the field. You would evolve up into a Crobat. You would then Devolution Spray Z. You would turn the Zubat into a Golbat and the Golbat into a Crobat, and then you would try and do this multiple times every turn. And you would be able to reuse this. Here's the thing though. One of the cards which I previously used in this series as a card which I believe strongly is not coming back is Scoop Up Net, which does a similar kind of thing. Now, instead of just devolving your Pokemon and putting them into your hand, it actually let you pick it up. But the theory here is exactly the same. I should mention, by the way, because I didn't make this clear a minute ago, Devolution Spray puts 1 card into your hand. Devolution Spray Z lets you shuffle the cards into your deck. So Devolution Spray Z, you wouldn't be able to necessarily just pick up the cards. You would then have to kind of draw back into them, but it let you reuse the abilities is where I'm going, and Devolution Spray would let you, just reuse the one because it went to your hand. So I suppose there is an argument here Devolution Spray Z isn't a better Devolution Spray. I'm going to leave this one up to you guys. But the point is, it's for reusing abilities on your own Pokemon. There is also a weird thing you can do with Devolution Spray. Let's say you've got Gardevoir out. What you can essentially do is if Gardevoir's got enough damage on to KO Curlier, you can do this weird thing where you use Devolution Spray to devolve Gardevoir into Curlier, who then has enough damage on to be immediately KO'd, but you give up one prize rather than the two you would be giving up if your opponent went ahead and KO'd Gardevoir, which is kind of dumb, but actually works, and I'd be lying if I said I'd never done that myself in the past. It's a cool kind of little play that you can take advantage of. I am not as convinced that this card is never coming back, but I can tell you this. It's not been here for a while, and my reasoning for why Scoop Up Net is probably not coming back is it's exactly the same as why this might not be coming back, and I think it is very fair at this stage to suggest that this one might not be coming back. This was based on a suggestion. I'd like some more suggestions. I'd like some more people to tell me about some more cards that you don't think are ever going to be coming back. I would love to know your opinions on these cards and on some other cards I could feature in the next episode of this series. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and card games and Pokemon card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join a Discord, all kinds of fun things. And of course, get shoutouts on the channel, like the lovely Tom the Game Nerd, who's been a supporter of ours for a while now, and is a very lovely person. So shout out to them for the support and the loveliness. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.